Now we're looking at part 3 tonight, a response to Myles Ketelsen, part 3. The critics are afraid of even more questions. We're going to look at it even more in depth tonight. We do want to welcome everyone to our doctrinal and theological investigative study of biblical issues. And we want to look at Myles's part 2. He had mentioned in part 2 about part 1 that I did, but I did in 253 part 2, and he didn't say anything about that. Didn't even touch it. Didn't even talk about part 2. He's still looking at my part 1. And so his part 2 says he's dead wrong in reference to what I said in my videos. And so we're going to look at it carefully. And tonight we're going to look at Myles's fake news media and company, because that's basically what it is. That's basically what it is Myles's fake news media and company. In other words, his followers. We're going to look at it carefully tonight. I want to look at a passage in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 13. The Bible says, "He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him." Now it's interesting that when I make these videos, we get all these comments, and I look at some of these comments as I go through them, and I think if they had watched my video carefully and watched the whole thing carefully, they wouldn't have come to that conclusion. And so it tells me that they're more like defending Myles on things they don't even know really what he's even saying. And so we're going to look at it a little more carefully tonight. I want to quote a statement from Myles, and it's interesting because tonight I'm going to go into his transcripts, not basically what I've heard him say on his YouTubes, but actually into the transcripts of what he actually does say, because he and his followers make it sound like I don't know what they're talking about, and that I need to listen better because I don't listen. And so I'm not going to think or write down what I basically listen to or hear. I'm going to go exactly into his transcript, and the viewers could decide. They could look at it and see for themselves. And they could go on and look at his transcript and see. And so in his transcript, at 449 of the video that he made, he says, "Having your theology critically examined." Now, he's saying that about in reference to what I'm saying. And so I'm going to quote Myles, and I agree with this. We're going to look at his and examine his videos critically and carefully. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to look at context in his transcript and terminology and words. We're going to do that. Now, mainly tonight, I'm going to be dealing basically with Myles all through the video. I only make one quote from Dr. Kaiser, just one quote. But all the rest is dealing with what Myles says, and we're going to look at exactly what he says in the transcript. Not basically watching a video and listening to what's being said, but actually in his transcript. And there's more tonight that I'm going to talk about in his chart, because he's saying I've totally misrepresented his chart, what he says, and I've totally misunderstood. And so we're going to look at the chart. We're going to put it on the screen. We're going to go through things tonight with the chart that I haven't actually said in some points about what his chart is saying. And so we're going to go through it because, like I've said, he says one thing on one hand, but his chart says something entirely different. And I'm going to prove that tonight. And so we're going to look at the chart carefully, and we're going to go through some key points tonight. So the critic Myles and his followers claim that I don't listen and that I don't know anything about the new Sabbath and the new creation. Now that's basically what he's saying in a nutshell. I don't understand it. I don't know anything about it. I've misrepresented what he said. I've misrepresented Dr. Parker. I've misrepresented Dr. Kaiser. And that's what he's saying about me. And so I want to mention this again. The critic Myles and his followers claim that I don't listen and that I don't know anything about the new Sabbath and the new creation, or I have misrepresented what they teach. By the way, as I said earlier, Myles never even touched the second video I did. 253 for the viewers. They need to watch this whole video right here. 253. Because many of the critics that are in Myles' camp, they didn't even want to watch this. They thought Myles destroyed what I was saying in his first video about what I had said. And so they don't even want to watch it. But I would really think that they would want to watch it to see exactly what I said in this video and then counter it. Go into the video, go into the chart, and show where I'm misquoting what the chart is saying. So let's go to the chart. You see, his basic principle, Myles claims his chart is simply a redemptive, historical, visual aid. That's the key point he's saying that this chart represents, is a redemptive, historical, visual aid. So we need to look at the chart carefully. Because here's what I'm going to say. Shouldn't the numbers on the chart show the redemptive, historical, visual aid accurately? Shouldn't it? Wouldn't you agree that, why would you use a chart that was based on error? So, wouldn't you agree that the numbers on the chart should show the redemptive, historical, visual aid accurately? I would think so. Because when I put charts together, I want it to be correct. I want it to be right. I don't want any errors or any misunderstandings about the chart. I don't want any of that. I want people to be able to see it clearly and say, yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. I see clearly what the chart is saying. Because when I look at it, Myles says I misinterpret it. I misrepresent it. And I don't want to do that. I want to know what's right. So I would think that he would explain to me what these numbers on the chart mean accurately. Because there's a whole lot of numbers there. Whole lot of numbers. There's not just one number. So why then doesn't Myles and his followers who follow Myles, who defend Myles, they say, I don't listen. Maybe they need to listen to what I'm saying. Because they're definitely not getting it. So why then doesn't Myles and his followers simply explain each of the Sabbath days on the chart by telling the viewers? Look, these people watching it or defending Myles, they could go in the comment section and they could say, hey, you know what? This number means this. Oh, well, thank you for showing me that. Thank you for telling me that. So I know exactly what the numbers represent. Okay? They could do that. If they know themselves what Myles is saying in the chart, they could do that. So in this video, when this video is completed and it's up, then I would like the viewers that are in Myles' camp to go on and just simply answer what I ask in the meeting tonight. Wouldn't that be the right thing to do? Instead of calling me names, just do that. So why then doesn't Myles and his followers simply explain each of the Sabbath days on the chart by telling the viewers what the numbers mean and what day of the week these numbers represent? See, it's very simple. He says these are all Sabbath days. I've said this before. I've mentioned this before. See, they just run from this. Myles runs from what he's got on this chart, and his followers run away from it. They don't answer it. And so, simple questions is just tell me what these numbers are on this chart for Sabbath days represent. According to the chart, these are all Sabbath days. That's not my chart. That's what his chart says. All these are Sabbath days. Are all these Sabbath days the seventh day of the week based upon the first week of creation's 7 days in the weekly cycle except the number 7 of man's post-fall week? They need to look at that question. Oh, don't tell me it's irrelevant. Don't tell me that, because it is relevant. What day of the week is this Sabbath day? It's his chart, not mine. So think about it. Think that question through and then answer it. What day of the week is the number 7 in man's post-fall week? Right here it is. What day of the week is man's post-fall seventh day? That number 7. What day is it? What day of the week is the number 1 in man's pre-fall week? Simple question. I would think they'd give a simple answer. Oh, well, Pastor Jeff, it means this. Oh, thank you for telling me that. Is the day of the week in man's pre-fall week a different day of the week than man's post-fall week according to the chart? Because look, this here is not on this, is it? Separate. Man's pre-fall week, man's post-fall week. Myles says one thing, and his chart says something different. I've said that before. In other words, what Myles says on this hand doesn't fit what the chart says on this hand. Two totally different things. And we're going to go into it. So now I'm going to quote the transcript. You don't have to worry about what I think by listening to what he says on the videos. I ran off the whole transcript of everything he says in the video. So this is his transcript. That means that number, you could go to that number and read in his transcript what's there on the screen. So don't tell me I didn't hear it right, because he did say that on a comment section, that I'm not listening because I didn't hear it or didn't get it right. Well, this is the transcript, so the viewers, you go back, and the critics, you go back and read the transcript. Read the transcript. So at 150, here's what Myles says. Genesis, when my whole point was it doesn't say Saturday or Sunday. Now remember that. This is what he says. Because he says, I failed to mention that he didn't mention Sunday as well. Well, here's his transcript, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll mention Sunday and watch it carefully. So here's his transcript. The next part of the transcript says, and here's what he's saying, that's not the point, and my chart was to support what I was saying. Now that's amazing. He says, because my chart was to support what I was saying. Then he goes on to say, and beget behind out of the, and he goes on with it. So here's my question. Is your chart to support what you're saying or not to support what you're saying? Because what does he say right here? He says my chart was that's not the point, and my chart was to support what I was saying. So that's the question I'm asking. Is your chart to support what you're saying or not to support what you're saying? Now think this through. Very simple question. Not a trap question, it's a simple question. If his chart wasn't to support what he's saying, then why even use the chart? Why even put the chart on the screen if it's not to support what you're saying? Now, if it is to support what you're saying, then the chart should agree with what you're saying, correct? That doesn't take a PhD to figure that out. Either your chart is to support what you're saying or it's not. And if it's not to support what you're saying, then why even use it? Why even have it up there? And if it's there to support what you're saying, then it should agree with what you're saying. The chart should agree with what you're saying. Now, doesn't that make sense? So he says, my whole point was it doesn't say Saturday or Sunday. He says, my chart was to support what I was saying, whether it does or doesn't. Then he goes on and he says this. He never claimed, in reference to him, he never claimed what I said. In other words, what he's saying that he is me in this statement. He says, I never claimed, he never claimed what he said. The chart is simply a visual to show, watch what he says, the chart is a simple visual to show what? To show how Adam and Eve came into existence, and based on evening to evening, their first day of existence would have been the 7th day of the week. Wow. Now that is boy, he really admits something there. This is his transcript. This isn't by me listening and misunderstanding. This is his transcript. So I want to read this again. The chart is simply a visual to show how Adam and Eve came into existence, and based on evening to evening, their first day of existence would have been the seventh day of the week. Now, he admits that their first day is the seventh day of the week. Now, do I misunderstand that? I want clarification. Viewers who defend Myles, think it through carefully what he's saying. Their first day of existence would have been the seventh day of the week. Do you agree with that? The seventh day of the week. Well, first of all, their first day of existence really was the sixth day that they were created. That was really their first day of existence. But in his mind, based on evening to evening, their whole first day would have been the what? The seventh day of the week. Now, he's admitting that this day, this seventh day, is not just a day in seven. He's admitting that this seventh day is the seventh day of what? Of the week. Let that soak in. The seventh day of the week. Correct? That's what his statement says. Here it is. The seventh day of the week. Right there it is. So Myles, are you saying that these number ones right here are all the seventh day of the week? Very crucial point. He needs to answer that question. His, what do I want to say? His followers need to answer that question. Let's read it again. And let's look at the chart. Remember, he's saying that Adam's first whole day over here is the seventh day of the week. So this then would be what? The seventh day. That number 7 would be the seventh day of what? The week. Yes or no? We're looking at the chart. And underneath that, he has these ones. So I'm asking the question. Myles, are you saying that these number ones right here, all these number ones, are on the seventh day of the week? That'd be good to answer that question. And if Myles won't answer it, maybe his followers will. And if they don't answer it, then they got a serious problem. So we're going to go right through it. According to your chart, Myles, according to your chart, you have 2 of the number ones as a Sabbath day. Correct? Remember, right here it is. This is his chart. Sabbath day. So that means that's a Sabbath day, and that means that's a Sabbath day. Correct? According to his chart. Now tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm misrepresenting what the chart's saying. There it is. So according to your chart, you have 2 of the number ones as a Sabbath day. Is that true or is that false? Make it very clear, right to the point. Is that true or is that false? What about it, critic followers? Are there 2 number ones that are Sabbath days according to the chart? Or did I just make that up, or is that according to the chart? What day of the week is the number 1 of Jesus' restoration? This is the chart, and the chart here says Jesus' restoration. And you follow the chart, and it comes to number 1, which following the chart says it is a Sabbath day. Restoration, Jesus' restoration. So what day of the week is the number 1 here of Jesus' restoration? Myles, what are you saying that these number 2s mean? We're going through it consecutively, consistently, point by point, right here. So Myles, what are you saying that these number 2s, Because we've got number 2s. Right there. Number 2s. By the way, are any of those number 2s a Sabbath day? None of those number 2s are a Sabbath day, are they? They're not. So Myles, what are you saying that these number 2s mean? Are these number 2s the first day of the week? Ooh, that's a good question. Good question. Are these number 2s the first day of the week? Myles, what are you saying that these number 3s mean? It's on the chart. There's the number 3s. Are those number 3s Sabbath days? Any of those number 3s a Sabbath day? So are these number 3s the second day of the week? Well, if these number 1s are on the first day of the week, that would be something, but they're not. These number 1s, according to Myles, are on the 7th day of the week. So let's move on. Myles, what are you saying that these number 4s mean? Are these number 4s the third day of the week? Oh, that's a very important question. Are these number 4s the third day of the week? Myles, what are you saying that these number 5s mean? There's a whole row of number 5s. Are these number 5s the fourth day of the week? Well, that's an important question. Are these number 5s the fourth day of the week? Myles, what are you saying that these number 6s mean? Are these number 6s the fifth day of the week? Do you see where I'm going? Do you understand? They talk about me not understanding. They talk about me misrepresenting. We're just looking at the chart. Oh, and then we come to 7s. Myles, what are you saying that these number 7s mean? Right here. Number 7s. What do they mean? Are these number 7s the sixth day of the week? See, because this here 7 is what he considers to be a Sabbath day. So this number 7 Sabbath day of man's post-fall week. So man's post-fall week, he has a 7th day here. A 7, number 7, that's called a Sabbath day. That's what he's got for man's post-fall week. By the way, is this 7th the same as that 7th? Woo! We're going to find out it's not. So is the 6th day of the week correct? In other words, this number 7 referred to the 6th day of the week. Remember what he said about that that first 7th day there. He called that the 7th day of the week. Top one. Right there. So Myles, what are you saying that these number 1s mean? Right here. Because that's what he's got on the chart. Number 1s. 2 of these number 1s are Sabbath days, according to the chart. 2 of them. Right here. This number 1 and this number 1 are considered Sabbath days. So, 2 of these number 1s are Sabbath days according to the chart. What day of the week are these 2 Sabbath days right here? What day of the week are they? Well, you remember what he said about this? It's the 7th day of the week. 7th day. He's got a number 1 here that he says was the 7th day of the week. Is that number 1 different than that number 1? They need to get it together, man. Are these 2 Sabbath days the 7th day of the week? Right here. Sabbath days, right here. Are these 2 number 1 Sabbath days the 7th day of the week? Do y'all understand what I'm saying here? It's clear, isn't it? Do you see what I'm talking about? I can't defend this. Now, the critics could call me all the names they want to call me. They could make me look like a clown. They could say this. They could say that. All the things they want. That's okay with me. Just show me what this is. That's all you got to do. If it's a redemptive, historical, visual aid, it should be accurate, not full of errors. You should be able to go through this, Myles, real easy and say, well, this means this means this. I'll point this out, this number hasn't happened by Myles or his followers. So the viewers could look at this and decide for themselves. Again, they call me anything they want. It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. Are these number 1s the 7th day of the week? Well, this would have to be here because he said that was the 7th day of the week. So what is that? Are these number 1s the 7th day of the week? Myles, what are you saying that these number 2s mean? It's on his chart, not mine, it's his chart. I believe if I put a chart together, I'd say, hey, this means this. This means this. That means that. Oh, and this number over here, this means this. And yet he wants me to believe this is a redemptive, historical, visual aid. Well, if it doesn't support what he's saying, then don't use it. If it supports what he's saying, then he's got a serious problem because what this says and what he's saying is 2 different things. Are these number 2s the first day of the week? Oh, that's an important question. Very important question. And you'll see as we get towards the end tonight. According to your chart, is there no first day of the week Sabbath day? Oh, what a question. Wouldn't you think that if you were showing a redemptive, historical, visual aid to when the new day began in a new creation, wouldn't you have that on the chart? It seems to me you would have it on the chart. Where on your chart is the first day of the week, Sabbath day? Where's it at? Well, let's go into more of what he says. This is all in the transcript. It's not what I listened and heard him say. I went to the transcript and this is exactly what he says. So it's not based upon what I hear. It's based upon what is written in his transcript. And here it is. Evening to evening, which would have made the evening of the 7th day the end of their first day, nothing about the new, and he meant creation there, but that's the way his transcript come up, in reference to new creation. Nothing about the new creation changing the weekly cycle. Again, the chart, notice the new creation explained. So he says the new creation is explained on the chart. And we're going to look at that. This is what he says. So starting there with 1:15:24, this creation changing the weekly cycle. Again, the chart, notice the new creation explained. Annotations at the top right. So we're going to go to the chart and we're going to look at the top right. Now notice what he says. Folks, before the fall, man started the week on the Sabbath. After the fall, man ended his week on the Sabbath. After redemption, man starts the week on the Sabbath again. Not that there are 3 literal different weeks or that there became a new weekly cycle with the new creation. No, there's a new day, that God entered His rest after the second creation, the work of recreation, redemption. All right, so I would challenge Myles, and I would challenge his followers to read what Myles says right here. Right here. Because there's a whole lot here we're going to look at. In context. No, you can't say, well, Pastor Jeff took it out of context. No, you can't do that. Here's the context. Read it for yourself. Let's look at it. So let's go to the chart. Sabbath and creation. Let's see if what he says in his chart match and agree. Sabbath and creation. Okay? Now that Sabbath and creation he calls the seventh day of the week. Adam's first whole evening to evening day, he says, of his existence would be on the seventh day of the week. Not a seventh day of any day in the week. He says the seventh day of the week. And he says it's explained what I misrepresent or don't understand about his redemptive historical visual aid is all explained in the annotation up here to the right at the top. Well, let's look at it carefully. Where is this Sabbath day on the chart? Right there. Okay, so before the fall, man started the week on the Sabbath. All right, so this is pre-fall week. This is before the fall. Now he says this is the seventh day of the week. Yes or no? Did we not read that in his transcript? This is the seventh day of the week. So where's this Sabbath day on the chart? Where would it be? What about, where is this Sabbath day on the chart? After the fall, man ended his week on the Sabbath. So that would be post-fall, right? So Adam falls, that's post-fall, and he's got it right here, right there. That's the Sabbath day. That day right there. Man's post-fall. Now, after redemption, where is this Sabbath day on the chart? After redemption. Man starts the week on the Sabbath again. Now, wouldn't you think the way he says that, after redemption, man starts the week on the Sabbath again, would be the same Sabbath that he started with up there where it says before the fall, man started the week on the Sabbath? Is this supposed to be some different kind of Sabbath? A different day Sabbath? I don't read anything in the explanation of these three lines that would explain to me that after redemption it would be a different day than the Sabbath that was before that. Different. You're going to see what I'm talking about here. Because see, according to the chart, this is lit up as a Sabbath day, and that's the seventh day of the week. So before the fall of man started the week on the Sabbath, so what would that day be? The seventh day of the week, correct? Yes or no? Because remember, he says the new creation didn't change the weekly cycle. There's only that of a new day. Well, let's see how it fits into his own chart. So is this Sabbath day Saturday or Sunday? Now remember, he says the Sabbath was transferred from Saturday to Sunday like Parker. And that in the Old Testament, it was Saturday because it changed in the New Testament at the resurrection to Sunday. So before the fall, man started the week on the Sabbath. And what would that day be that he started his week on the Sabbath? The seventh day of the week, just like he said. The seventh day of the week. Is this number 7 the seventh day of the week? Well, that's what he said it was. We read it in the transcript. It's not what I heard, not what I listened. No, it says it in the transcript. In Myles' own words, he says that Adam's first day of existence, which he was referring to evening, would have been the seventh day of the week. Not a seventh day of any day in the week, but the seventh day of the week. Those are two different things. You see, a lot of Presbyterians love to jump on. I remember one theologian in the church, Nigel Lee, and he'd written on the covenants. Presbyterians love to jump on the idea. Dr. D. James Kennedy, same thing. 1 day in 7. 1 day in 7. Presbyterians love to jump on that 1 day in 7. But Myles didn't say it was 1 day in 7. And Nicholas Bound, same way. So it's interesting. Is this number 7 the 7th day of the week? Well, according to Myles, it is the 7th day of the week in his transcript. Is this number 1 the 7th day of the week? That he needs to answer. Because according to the chart, that number 1 is under the 7th day of the week. So that number 1 must mean the 7th day of the week. Yes or no? Because the first day of the week is a different day than the 7th day of the week. We know that from the Bible itself. The 7th day and the first day are not the same day in the weekly cycle. So, is that the first day of the week, that number 1, or is it the 7th day of the week? Well, that number 1 would be the 7th day of the week, according to the transcript. Correct? Is this Sabbath, and not according to the chart mainly, because you'll see as we go on through it, but what he says. So, remember he said it's explained in this annotation up here at the top right hand of the chart. There it is, we're going through it. Is this Sabbath day, after the fall of man ended his week on the Sabbath, is this Sabbath day the 7th day of the week? Whew. Now that's going to be down here. This is after the fall of man ended, right here, his week on the Sabbath. So remember, here's this, right? So is this number 7 the 7th day of the week? Is this Sabbath day after the fall Saturday or Sunday? Right there. Oh, look at this chart carefully, friends. Like I said, they can call me all the names they want. But look at the chart carefully. You know, the bottom line is, these kind of things show you, do you really want the truth or not the truth? When the evidence mounts and the evidence comes in, and all has been said and done, do you really want the truth or do you not want the truth? That's the bottom line, really. Because I want the truth, and I've said to him, look, I don't want to misrepresent Myles. Just tell me what these numbers mean. Have I not said that in my meetings? Have I not said that in my videos? Just tell me what they mean. This annotation at the top right hand corner does not explain what these numbers mean. Isn't that amazing? If they explain what these numbers mean, then tell me right there at the top in the question I'm asking, is this Sabbath day Saturday or Sunday? Because Myles knows himself, whether he says Saturday or Sunday in creation, it's either one or the other. Because Saturday comes down to Sunday, a different day in the resurrection. Whether he says it or not, the implication is it's clear it's either going to be Saturday or Sunday, yes or no? It's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday. So is this number 7? The 7th day of the week? Referring to the annotation that he says explains? No, the annotation at the top right hand does not explain these numbers in the least. Not at all. After the fall of man ended his week on the Sabbath, well, is that number 7 there, the 7th day of the week? We're going to find out in a little bit. After redemption. So after redemption meant that Jesus died on the cross. He redeemed us. That takes us to the New Testament, the crucifixion of Christ in redemptive historical time. Takes you to the cross. Redemption in Jesus. Right? After redemption, man starts the week on the Sabbath again. Now, is that number 1 there? Let's think about it. Is this number 1 the 7th day of the week that Jesus restores? Oh no, he's not. There's where he's going to depart from his own chart. He's going to say, no. Jesus restored the Sabbath the first day in the new creation. Isn't that interesting? The days change right there. But it's interesting, how do you restore something that never existed? First day Sabbath didn't exist, he says, at creation. So how do you restore something that didn't exist? But see, when you read after redemption, man starts the week on the Sabbath again. Now, if he starts the week on the Sabbath again, wouldn't that take you back to the pre-fall? Right there? Sure it would. But we know his first day is regarding Sunday, the first day of the week, not the seventh day that he says is back here. This is the seventh day of the week. He says so in his transcript. They're confused, man. You know, error will never counter truth, but truth will always prevail over error. When the balances are all weighed in and all the evidence is in, truth will prevail. Error will never prevail over truth. It will, but a short time that people don't look at it carefully. It looks good on the surface, but truth will prevail always. Like I said, I can't defend this. Can't defend it at all from the Bible. Not at all. And it doesn't matter if you go into Hebrews chapter 4. We're going to look at that too. We're going to do a whole video on Hebrews chapter 4. Not just a little bit talking about it. We're going to do a whole video on Hebrews chapter 4. But think about it. Is this number 1 the seventh day of the week that Jesus restores? Because remember, this here you're going to find is also a Sabbath day. You're going to find that. This is a Sabbath day. So we have to ask the question, is this Sabbath day the seventh day of the week? The one here after redemption, the man starts the week on the Sabbath again? If that's not clear, that's not explaining to us what these numbers are. Do you guys, right here tonight, see how that at the top explains these numbers? Can you see that in the chart? Do you see how that at the top right hand, this annotation, explain these numbers? Does it? Doesn't, does it? I don't have to tell you it doesn't. You're shaking your head, no, it doesn't. Explain it. Is this Sabbath day Saturday or Sunday? Now we're being specific here. We're talking about the line here of Jesus' restoration. Number 1 in Jesus' restoration with all these numbers following. I'd say he needs to throw this chart away and start over. Is this number 1 the seventh day of the week? So let's read it. Listen to what he says. Starting right here. You could read, I've already read this. You could read the whole context again. I'm going to read the whole thing again. Watch this. Evening to evening, which would have made the evening of the seventh day the end of their first day, nothing about the new creation changing the weekly cycle. He admits that the new creation doesn't change the weekly cycle. I agree with that. It doesn't change the weekly cycle. The chart, notice, now watch what he says about the chart. The chart, notice the new creation explained, annotations at the top right. We just went through the top right. Did it explain these numbers? Not at all. Not at all. Folks, before the fall, man started the week on the Sabbath. After the fall, man ended his week on the Sabbath. After redemption, man starts the week on the Sabbath again. Now watch what he says. Not that there are 3 literal different weeks, or that there became a new weekly cycle with the new creation. No, there's a new day. So it didn't change the weekly cycle from creation. There's a new day. And so that new day is going to change. It's going to be a new day. Not the seventh day, it's going to be a new day. That God entered His rest after the second creation work, the work of recreation, redemption. And there's where he's going to say, and Jesus entered into that rest at his ascension on the first day. Okay? So let's look at it. So where is this new day, this recreation redemption at on your chart? A redemptive historical visual aid. So here it is. Here's the chart, untouched. I haven't touched the chart. There it is in its natural state right there. And I'm asking this question. Where is the new day? This new day, this recreation redemption at on your chart, a redemptive historical visual aid. It should be on the chart, shouldn't it? Between the old creation, 7th day of the week Sabbath, and now a new creation, redemptive Sabbath, new first day Sunday Sabbath. Shouldn't that be on the chart? Wouldn't you think so? I would think so. If I was going to do a chart of a redemptive historical visual aid, I would have the old creation and then the new creation. So is this new creation this part of the chart? Jesus' restoration? Well, that's supposed to be. It really is. But let's look at it carefully. Certainly, the importance of this new day to the redemptive historical visual aid of this chart should be somewhere on the chart itself. Wouldn't you agree, critics? Shouldn't that new creation and that day, that new Sabbath day, should be on the chart? I'm asking the critics that. Shouldn't that be if it's a redemptive historical visual aid? How would you leave out the part of what Jesus redeemed? His redemption. So, having said that, show us, Myles, where this new day is located on the chart. Do tell the viewers, Myles, so we can see this visual aid for ourselves on your visual chart. So where's this new day of worship? This new day in the new creation. Where's it at? On the chart. Is that a fair question? I would ask the viewers that. Is that a fair question? Is that a question that is relevant to the chart? Remember, it's his chart that says Sabbath and creation. Now, where's the new Sabbath at in the new creation? Where's it at on the chart? So, let's look at it. Let's go up to where he explains in the annotation at the top right. Before the fall, man started the week on the Sabbath. Now, what day did he say that Sabbath was? The 7th day of the week, yes or no? That's in his transcript. Remember, evening to evening, Adam's first existence of his first day was the 7th day of the week. That would be that, wouldn't it? Right? So man's pre-fall week, that would be what? After the fall, going down. Wouldn't that be the 7th day of the week too? Yes, it would. It didn't change the days of the week. He said the weekly cycle was never changed. So if Adam and Eve, on that first evening to evening that they spent, was the 7th day of the week, and the weekly cycle didn't change, wouldn't man's post-fall week also be the 7th day? What do you think? What about Jesus' restoration? Wouldn't that also be the 7th day of the week? He's got all those ones right underneath the sevens. See, because if you don't change the week, then the very next day after the 7th would be starting the week all over again, right? Wouldn't that be the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th day of the week? See, because the week didn't change. So from this very first week that he says was the 7th day of the week, number one, the next day would be what? The first day of the week, yes or no? So let's put it in the chart the way it should have been put in the chart already. So you got the first week, the second week, and so on. So here's the 7th day of the week, here's the 7th day of the week, yes or no? So that week to follow the first should be in consecutive order, sequential order, because the week hasn't changed. He says the weeks haven't changed. based on his transcript, not what I hear and listen to. He said the only thing that changed was the day. A new day in a new creation. Now, if I'm misrepresenting what he says, you tell me. You could tell me. And remember, he says these are Sabbath days. There it is. But his chart says something different than what he actually is saying. And using that as a Sabbath day. So then, think about it. So this then is what the weekly cycle that hasn't changed looks like with the seventh day Sabbath in the weekly cycle from creation to the resurrection according to the chart. Correct? Because here it is. There's the weekly cycle right at the top. Now you know what that means, don't you? Well, before I get to that, what that means is the second, number 2 here, actually is the first day of the week. So the first day of the week is number 2, the second day of the week is number 3, the third day of the week is number 4, the fourth day of the week is number 5, the fifth day of the week is number 6, the sixth day of the week is number 7 in his chart. If the week never changed. And he says the week never changed. It's not 3 different literal weeks. See, this is what he would call 3 different literal weeks in his chart. That's not 3 different literal weeks. So that would mean then that the 7th day of the week is right there. Consistently. Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong about this. I mean, I don't want to mess up. I don't want to be misrepresenting anybody. Is this what it would be if none of the weeks changed? Let's go on and read from the transcript. Adam and Eve's first day being God's 7th, or the point that was being made, my chart, which was a redemptive, historical, visual aid. I would think, I know I would want my chart to be accurate. And explain it to what it means. The New Testament is the period in which the new creation begins. This doesn't mean it changed the weekly cycle. Okay, so you got 7 days, first creation week, 7th day. Then the next 7th day. Then the next 7th day. Because remember, he said the weekly cycle. So the new creation didn't change the weekly cycle. I agree with that. It didn't change it. He says what changed is the day. So I want to read this again. The New Testament is the period in which the new creation begins. This doesn't mean it changed the weekly cycle. I already explained earlier what I meant by the chart. And man's week, which would be, I kept it just like it was in the transcript. See, I'm not editing. I'm not changing anything. Because I don't want to be accused of changing anything. So whatever the transcript says, that's exactly what I put on the screen. Does everybody understand that? I'm going to make myself clear. I want to clarify that. So the transcript spelled it this way, but we know it means W-E-E-K. Okay? So let's read it again. I already explained earlier what I meant by the chart. And man's week and God's week, go watch the presentation, folks. It's in the description box. And then he goes on to say, and you could watch it. However, think it through carefully. We just went through the chart. We just went through it. Never. He says he never claimed what he, in reference to what I said, that the chart is simply a visual to show how Adam and Eve came into existence, and based on evening to evening. That's his teaching, not mine right here. I'm not saying that. I'm not even talking about that right now. I'm talking about what Myles is saying. Their first day of existence would have been the 7th day of the week. I did not say that there were 2 different weeks. Now remember, this is in reference to God's week and man's week. Not all the other weeks there, but just man's and God's, comparing those 2. So that's why he's talking about 2. So he's saying would have been the 7th day of the week. I did not say that there were 2 different weeks, with Adam and Eve's first day being Sunday and God's week is his 7th day. Jeff entirely misunderstood. No, I didn't misunderstand. And I've already proved that I didn't misunderstand. Because here's what he goes on to say. Or is misrepresenting the reason for me even bringing this up is this was the start of a redemptive historical explanation of the doctrine of the Sabbath. What a cop-out. What an excuse he's using here under the heading of a redemptive historical explanation of the doctrine of the Sabbath. If that's his redemptive historical explanation, I'd give him an F- on that. If that chart is laying out a redemptive historical explanation of the doctrine of the Sabbath, it would be an F-. New creation didn't change the weekly cycle. I agree with that. New creation didn't change the weekly cycle. Right? And Jeff, this was never claimed. And because you thought something was being said that wasn't, you then built your questions on that errand. No, there's more to those questions that he didn't want to answer. He's not being honest here. There was more to my questions than what he's saying. Much more. Evening to evening, which would have made the evening of the 7th day the end of their first day. Nothing about the new creation changing the weekly cycle. Again, the chart. Notice the new creation explained. And he says where it's explained is the annotations at the top right. And that's just what we went through. Folks, before the fall, man started the week on the Sabbath. But what was that Sabbath day he started his week on? He says the 7th day of the week. After the fall, man ended his week on the Sabbath. Well, what is that Sabbath day? Is that also the 7th day of the week? We looked at the chart. And that 7th day is actually on the 6th day. Not the 7th day. The one where man's post-fall week. It's not the same 7th day as the first week, 7th day. 2 different 7th days on 2 different days. Isn't that amazing? That's what his chart is saying. When you look at each week in its consecutive order, because it never changed. So he says, after redemption, man starts the week on the Sabbath. And he's saying that again, the chart, again. Okay? So again, not that there are 3 literal different weeks or that there became a new weekly cycle. So that hasn't changed since creation. With the new creation, and here's what he says. No, there's a new day. So now you keep the same weekly cycle, the same 7th day of the week, all the way from creation to the resurrection, to the crucifixion, to the resurrection, and you have now a new day on the resurrection. So then number 1 is actually the 7th day of the week in creation, since the week didn't change. And what day in the weekly cycle that has not changed is this new day? Well, they tell us the new day is what? The first day of the week. Not the 7th day of the week. Remember he says, no, there's not a change in the weekly cycle. Just there's a change in what? The new day. There's a new day. Okay? So the new day is what? What day is the new day? Sunday. Correct? That's what they teach. That's what Myles teaches. That's what his critics teach. They follow. Yep. So this then is what the weekly cycle that hasn't changed looks like with the 7th-day Sabbath in the weekly cycle from creation to the resurrection. Right there it is. So here you have the 7th day of the week. All those would really need to be 7s because these are all 1s. So you have the 7th day of the week. Doesn't change the days of the week. And goes all the way down. So the first day of the week would actually be number 2 according to the chart. Am I right or wrong? Right or wrong? that simple. If I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. If it's right, then why don't you believe it? If it's right and truthful, believe it. I want to believe the truth no matter who says it. I want to agree where I can when it's the truth. I agree with Myles that this is the 7th day of the week. I agree with that. That's the truth. It is. It's the 7th day of the week. But see, we know that Sunday, the first day of the week, doesn't fall on the 7th day of the week. 2 different days, right? One ends the week and the other one begins the week. So to keep the week and not change the week, the very next day after that top line of the 7th day would be what? The first day. If I'm wrong, tell me. And then the 2nd day, then the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Right? That's the way the weekly cycle would be. That's what it would look like, right there. I think Myles is obsessed with the idea that Sunday's the new Sabbath. And then we get accused of making the 7th day an idol. The 7th day Sabbath an idol. I hear that from the critics. But it seems to me that Myles is making an idol out of Sunday, the first day, instead of the weekly cycle that refers to the 7th day of the week. That he says hasn't changed, only the day has changed in the new creation. So where on the chart is this the new first day Sunday Sabbath? Because this gets really interesting. Myles says no Sunday Sabbath in creation, remember? He said I misunderstood and misrepresented and maybe was even dishonest about it. That he says no Sunday Sabbath in creation. So according to the chart, is there no first day Sunday Sabbath on the chart? That's what I'd like to see Myles show me. Well, I would like to see Myles look at his own chart and tell me if there's a first day Sunday Sabbath, redemptive, historical, visual aid on that chart. If you forget everything I've said, or don't even listen to it, it would be nice to really see the critics focus in on this and say, well, it seems to me this redemptive, historical, visual aid would show us where this new day of worship, this new day in honor of the resurrection, this new day that was restored would be on the chart. Because remember, he says the first day isn't on the chart, Sabbath. Well, watch this. This gets really interesting. There's so much more to this. We're just really touching the surface right here. When you go to Luke chapter 3, New Testament, all the way from Jesus, all the way back to Adam, New Testament, the chronology of Jesus in Luke chapter 3. I would challenge the critics to read Luke chapter 3 and put it in consecutive order the way the Bible describes it. And I'm going to ask a couple questions here and look at it carefully. Remember what his transcript said right here. First, here's Adam right here. And this first day from evening to evening of Adam's existence in his life was the 7th day of the week. That's what Myles says right here. I'm quoting Myles. Again, not that there are 3 literal different weeks or that there became a new weekly cycle with the new creation. No, there's a new day. But that new day doesn't happen here. He says the new day happens down here at the resurrection of Jesus. But watch. Here is the genealogy from Jesus all the way back to Adam. Weekly cycle hasn't changed. So over here, the 7th day of the week, and then Sunday, the first day of the week, a new day. So all the way to Jesus, you had the 7th day of the week, was the Sabbath. And then at the resurrection of Jesus, Myles teaches a new day. And we're going to go into Hebrews chapter 4. But it's interesting, he teaches a new day. Doesn't change the weekly cycle, but a new day. And that day is Sunday, the first day of the week. Okay, so we know that there's a difference between Sunday, the first day of the week, and the 7th day of the week. So if Sunday's the first day of the week, even though Myles didn't mention that in Genesis, whether it was Saturday or Sunday, he emphasizes that. Even though he doesn't mention that, it's got to be one or the other. So if Sunday's the first day, this new day of the week, first day, then what day of the week is the 7th day? Saturday. So it's really, when you talk about the words relevant or irrelevant, it's really irrelevant that Myles says, oh, I didn't say it was either Saturday or Sunday back in Genesis, but now when it comes to the first day, a new day, that first day of the week is Sunday. So if the first day of the week is Sunday, what day of the week is the seventh day? You only got 7 days in the week. Amazing. So where did the change take place? No change in the weekly cycle. So the seventh day of the weekly cycle in creation is the same seventh day in the weekly cycle that we have today, yes or no? Now if Myles says no and wants to change that, then it's going to affect his first day Sunday, because that first day Sunday follows the seventh day Saturday. Whether he wants to imply it in Genesis or not, that's what it does. It would have had to have changed between Adam and Jesus. But the weekly cycle, he admits, and I agree, didn't change. The only thing that changed was the day. And then we're going to study even more when we get into type and antitype, because Myles has it that Saturday, Sabbath, was a type, and then Sunday, another type, and then the eternal Sabbath rest is antitype. We're going to look at that. Oh, thoroughly we're going to look at that. He says, my whole point was it doesn't say Saturday or Sunday. That's what he's talking about in creation. So Myles, do you have to say Saturday or Sunday? For the seventh day of the week in creation is either one or the other. According to your transferred theology, Sir Myles, it must be Saturday if transferred to Sunday. Doesn't take too much to figure that out. That's what you call just plain common sense. Myles, your theology of this new day, Sunday, first day of the week, Sabbath, transferred from Saturday, the seventh day of the week, is skewed and flawed in so many ways. So many ways. You know, just to take a piece of paper, sit down and write number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and just start writing the flaws down. You could do that. Start writing down how he spins and twists and skews. What the simple commandment says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. How simple is that to the reader? So many spins, turns, and gymnastics, it's unbelievable to what degree the critics go to distort a simple commandment of God. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Lord, is that Sunday the first day I'm to keep holy? Is that what the text says? Remember the first day of the week. Remember the first day to keep it holy. Is that the Sabbath day that we're to keep? Is that written in the 10 Commandments of God? Is that written in the law of God? And the Bible simply says the seventh day, not the first day. You know, it seems to me that what an event it was when God wrote the 10 Commandments with His own hand, His own finger. In codified form, for them to visibly see His law. It seems that if He changed it, He would do the same thing. He would come down somewhere and say, look, I have rewritten the fourth commandment. Now we're going to keep the first day holy. So as we wrap it up, think about it. If Sunday is the first day of the week, what day of the week is the seventh day of the week? Remember, he said Adam, number 1 in man's pre-fall week, was really the seventh day of the week. Not what I heard, listened, it's in the transcript. Since Myles says that there is not that there are 3 literal different weeks or a new weekly cycle, what are the numbers 2, this is what I'm asking here, what are the numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2 represent? What do they mean? All those numbers after. It's not explained in the upper right-hand top of that chart. Not explained at all. Myles, is this number 1 on the chart, the first day of the week, Sunday, Sabbath, that Jesus restores, Jesus' restoration at the resurrection in the new creation? Is that what that number 1 is supposed to mean? That is Sunday? Oh boy, if it is, we got serious problems. Because all those number 1s fall under the 7th day of the week. On the other hand, let's ask Myles another question. Myles, if number 1 on the chart is not the first day of the week, Sunday, Sabbath, that Jesus restores, Jesus' restoration at the resurrection in the new creation, then what is it? Is number 1 the 7th day of the week? Is number 1 Saturday the 7th day of the week? And I'm talking specifically about this right here and this right here. Jesus' restoration. Now I quote one quote tonight, just one, from Dr. Ketelsen. Christ's resurrection establishes a new first day Sabbath. That's all I quote. One little phrase here from Dr. Ketelsen. Christ's resurrection establishes a new first day Sabbath. Now, what day of the week is this new first day Sabbath? Now, be honest, Myles. You're going to say it's Sunday, isn't it? Isn't that right? Sunday? Where on the chart is this new first day Sabbath? Just show me where it's at. Remember, you say it's a redemptive, historical, visual aid. So it seems to me that this redemptive, historical, visual aid should have on this chart the new first day Sabbath. So I'm asking the question, where on the chart is this new first day Sabbath? Now tell me, is that a relevant question or is it irrelevant? Do you just simply throw out all the questions I've asked based on the word irrelevant? Or is this question relevant for a redemptive, historical, visual aid? Is that relevant? You're saying it's relevant. Again, not that there are 3 literal different weeks or that there became a new weekly cycle with the new creation. No, there's a new day. All right? So, Sunday is the first day of the week, not the 7th day of the week. And Myles tells us that this is the 7th day of the week. And the first number 1 that falls under that 7th day is really referring to the 7th day of the week, that Adam and Eve was evening to evening. Viewers, Myles believes in a new Sabbath day in a new creation. So Myles, tell the viewers you need to do another part, and in that part you need to answer or respond to 253 of my video, and you need to respond to this video, 254. So Myles, tell the viewers, look in the camera in your podcast, and you're doing your podcast, look into the camera, look to the viewers, and tell the viewers, as important as your new Sabbath day is in your new creation, where is it on the chart? Where's it at? Where's this new Sunday first day Sabbath at in this redemptive, historical, visual aid, the chart? Where's it at? Okay, so here it is. Setting the record straight, I haven't yet begun to refute Myles. I'm just simply asking questions about Myles' chart. Asking questions about his chart is not a straw man argument. They are questions. Myles' fake news media has deflected my questions. Since Myles believes that his position is true and the best apologetics on the Sabbath against Adventists, it is up to Myles to prove in the affirmative what the numbers are on the chart he uses as a redemptive, historical, visual aid. Myles says that I didn't refute Dr. Parker's Greek, yet I said that I will be covering the Greek and Hebrew in more videos coming. It's in my videos, I say that. Myles says that I don't refute what he's saying. Well, at this point, I haven't intended to refute anything Myles is saying. I am simply asking Myles questions about his chart. His reasons for deflecting my questions about the chart are excuses. That's the bottom line. They're excuses. And if his followers want to buy into the fact that my questions are irrelevant, that's their privilege. They can think and say what they want. That's their privilege. But excuses don't answer what I'm saying about the chart. So Myles, I want to leave the viewers with this thought. Right here it is. It would be nice for the critics and all their followers just to check this question out and follow through with it. So Myles, as important as your new Sabbath day is in your new creation, where is this new Sabbath day and new creation on the chart that you say is a redemptive, historical, visual aid? Shouldn't it be on the chart? I want to know where it's exactly, not general. Oh, but I explained that in the annotation at the top right. No, you didn't. I want to know to take your finger and put exactly on the chart like I did when I went to the Sabbath and saying this is Sabbath day, this is a Sabbath day according to the chart. I want Myles to take his finger, put on the chart. He could put the chart up in his next podcast. Put the chart right up there, and I want him to take his finger and point to the chart and say, this is the new day, Sunday, Sabbath, the first day of the week, according to the chart that is a redemptive, historical, visual aid. Can you do that, Myles? Take your finger, put it right on the chart. I'd like to see that. Would you like to see that? What about the viewers? Would you like to see that? I'd like to see that. So where is your new Sabbath day of Hebrews 4 on the chart that you say is a redemptive, historical, visual aid? Show on the chart, here's the relevance of the question, show on the chart where this new Sabbath day is located and what day of the week is this new Sabbath day in this new creation on the chart. So I could walk over here to the chart and I could say that's the 7th day of the week. Now I want him to walk over to his same chart, his own chart, and say, which one of these is the first day of the week that's the new Sabbath day according to a redemptive, historical, visual aid? The chart. Put your finger on it. I want to see where it's located. More videos coming. We're just getting started. So one of two things will happen. In Myles' next video, he's not going to deal with this, but he'll go back to the first one and try to deal with something in the first one. Or he's going to simply say, I'm not going to waste my time with this guy. That's what some of these guys do too. Not going to waste my time with this guy. I'm just going to move on. That's okay. You move on, but I'm going to continue to do more videos on this. There's more coming. I'm just getting started. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. So there's more videos will be coming on what Myles is saying in his transcripts. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord. We thank you for being able to go to the Bible, read the simple 4th commandment, remember the Sabbath day. And we know, Lord, according to the Bible, the Sabbath day is the 7th day. No change. No change in the weekly cycle. And so, Father, I just thank you, Lord, for the the privilege to study your word and to share with others. In Jesus' wonderful name we pray. Amen.